Blog Talk Radio.
Namaste, people of planet Earth and all throughout infinite consciousness. Welcome to Nature of Reality Radio. It is October 22nd, 2014. I am your host, Andrew Fisher, broadcasting this show every Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from the suburbs of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to expose the true and false nature of reality for what it is and what it isn't. We are going to have Connie Boucher on the show. I was introduced to her by Jimmy Winskowski, who also has a blog talk radio show, I believe. Send me an email saying, Connie Boucher, some expert. I guess she would be an expert on health and wellness, because a lot of people in the subject of health and wellness claim to be experts, but they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Connie is different. She is a busy wife, mother with 10 kids total, and a grandmother at 17 grandkids. By the way, she looks pretty good for her age. She looks great for a grandmother. See her picture. She looks good. You say she's a grandmother, but she appears like good enough to be appears to be a mother. Sorry if anybody thinks that was appropriate. Just when I saw a picture, I was like, she's a grandmother. Wow, she looks great for her age. She's a massage therapist, health and wellness coach who, out of a very real need, has developed a practical and open-minded way of viewing the world and solving problems. Her own real-life experiences have provided her with a wealth of valuable knowledge and understanding about how to properly hear yourself and keep your mind, body, and spirit at full force. I don't know if this is her in the queue here, area code 571. I'll be getting her on at 10 after the hour at the absolute latest. And her site is supersimplewellness.com. She does sell things. We're not going to make this show that much of a sales pitch. We're going to try to get important information out. But hey, I will let her talk about her products if she wants to. But first, we're going to start with the news, courtesy of Alex Jones and Company at InfoWars. There was a shooting in Ottawa today. I am not exactly sure what the details are. I just got to my computer not that long ago, and not really familiar with the details, but there's plenty of articles here about it. Well, hopefully I'll figure out as soon as this show is over what exactly happened here. Well, we don't know what exactly happened. Hope it's not a false flag, but you got a good chance that it is. It says, first article here, driver subjected to mandatory vehicle searches following Canadian shooting. Checkpoints used on all bridges exiting Ottawa. Well, now this is something for everybody who's listening to my show would know that I'm on a crusade to get a video called Secrets Police Don't Want You to Know, which is on the Alex Jones channel, out to the rest of the world. And in that video, it exposes how transportation laws only apply to those who are using the roads for commercial purposes. You don't need a license, insurance, registration, or license plate on your car unless you're using the roads for commercial purposes, and the laws of the road don't apply to you. Speed limit, stop sign, and such. Well, that doesn't mean you can't drive in an unsafe manner, or I shouldn't say drive, because that's a commercial term. And the way the courts get you on this is they count on you not knowing that the legal definition of a word will always be better than the standard English dictionary definition of that same word, and that gives them the opportunity to screw you over. And the point is they're using this scam to steal billions from the common people, and Eddie Craig in that video, Secrets Police Don't Want You to Know, shows what you should say to the police if they pull you over and how to fight the ticket in court. But the point is they're trying to accommodate people to martial law through they're using the shooting to justify it, and now they're putting checkpoints everywhere on all bridges. That is exiting Ottawa, and well, maybe some people in Canada know Eddie Craig's script. Hope they do. They might want to use it if the police pull them over. Next article, Canadian Prime Minister draws fire for reportedly drinking wine during Ottawa shooting briefing. Why would the head of state drink wine during a crisis? Well, okay, let's not be stereotypical about alcohol here. Alcohol does have a few health benefits, especially if it's like red wine and all, but I guess people are saying it doesn't seem appropriate that he would be doing that during a shooting briefing. Again, I don't know what this shooting is about. I have to research that when the show is over, but whatever, let's just move on. I don't want to speculate on why he was drinking wine or what people want to think of that. Next article, weird government website predicts total collapse of America by 2025. The U.S. to crumble as superpower, population decimated. Well, that government website is probably thinking of a negative timeline. We're actually on a positive timeline, as many people who listen to my show would probably know, and also listen to Alfred Weber and others who have talked about how we are on a positive timeline. And, well, that doesn't mean you shouldn't sit back and do nothing. You got to do your part to make sure this positive timeline ends in an event. I don't know if event's the best word, but you get my drift. An event that will allow us to raise in consciousness and this total collapse isn't going to happen if we are on a positive timeline. So next article, CIA analyst, Canadian shooting, maybe ISIS or Al-Qaeda. Oh, my God. Okay, now you know that there's obviously a good chance it was a false flag because the U.S. government publicly runs Al-Qaeda, and the Canadian, you don't hear about the Canadian government running Al-Qaeda, but they are an ally, so to speak, of the American government. Well, again, all governments are controlled by the Illuminati bloodlines, but the allies, Canadian and America, are, for all practical purposes, allies in that regard. And you can bet that they're going to. Well, actually, after the Boston bombing happened, if anybody wants to listen to my article with Dan Badandi, my interview with Dan Badandi, we exposed the Boston bombing at the beginning of the interview, and he exposed with the hard questions he asked during press conferences that he shut down. And the Canadian government did actually try to use the Boston bombing, even though it happened in America, to justify tyranny. And now they're saying it was this Canadian shooting, maybe ISIS or Al-Qaeda, which the U.S. government publicly runs, and the Canadian government, controlled by the same special interests, in all likelihood has something to do with that. And now they're going to use it to take away civil liberties, I bet. All right, next article, censorship. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police asked public not to post photos, videos of Ottawa shooting. Canadian officials attempt to censor press. Yes, they're going to try to censor freedom of speech, especially when the speech shows photos and videos of the shooting, which can expose the fact that it was a lie. I mean, anybody who watched Jim Fetzer's presentation at the Free Your Mind conference, it's on YouTube. He shows how the Boston bombing so obviously staged, and the way they put actors in and people that faked injuries and all, it was such a mess. And now people, if there's so many photos and videos of it, they probably might be able to pick out the same thing. I don't know the details. That's just what comes to mind here. So I'll make of that whatever you will. All right, next article. Dad's petition seeks to ban artificial sports fields over a reported link to cancer. Recycled tires used to make fields known to contain harmful carcinogens. Well, just play on grass. That's a natural way to go. Yes, can't beat nature. Our next article, airdrop to Islamic State is propaganda ploy for boots on the ground in Syria. The United States and Turkey have no intention of saving Kurds of Kobani. Yes, they just want to further that agenda in the Middle East. And this airdrop that supposedly happened is it's all going to be a ploy to get boots on the ground in Syria, and they want to overthrow Assad. And he's not an angel, but he's not that bad a dictator. And now they want to get rid of him. And the Turkey, another ally, so to speak, of America, would have something to do with this. Our next article, cops train guns on journalists after shooting in Canada. Soldiers reportedly shot during incident at War Memorial. Oh, well, now I know what happened. It was a War Memorial. Oh, what a great place for the Canadian government or the New World Order to stage a shooting. So I don't want to think it's a false flag, but it very well may be. I mean, Canada, will they use this to take the guns in Canada? Well, the only people who can have guns in Canada, according to the laws, which are not legal laws because they restrict the right to bear arms, and which is a global right. All rights are unalienable and universal, and only you can have a gun in Canada if you want to use it for hunting, which is no. Everybody's entitled to have a gun for protection to protect themselves from, among other things, tyrannical government. But that's the end of the news. And I just want to quickly point out before I get Connie on, I'll get her on in 2 minutes at the latest. Andrew Bartzis in a recent video talked about how right now massive timeline incursion stuff is going on in the timelines above and below us. It might just be the ones above us, but this is affecting us at a strange level. One example he used is like your partner is sitting next to you. One moment you see them there, but then you look for a split second and you see them walking away from you, and then you think, what just happened? Why did I see that? That's the timeline incursion that's going on. And try to become more adjusted with time. Andrew Bartzis says, in tune with time, do things like out of the ordinary to keep the control system from predicting what you're going to do, among other things. It's very complicated and all, but make of that whatever you will. I guess if you can astral travel a remote view, you can see exactly the war, the genocide, the timeline incursion that's going on that's affecting us at a level, and we are in a time of great change, apparently. And the Georgia Guidestones, I encourage you to watch the videos on the Mr. Katai channel, YouTube channel, Mr. Katai, MRCATI, talking about how the Georgia Guidestones talked about Ebola and this time period as being very significant. So, Georgia Guidestones did in 1980, and now they have something to do with Ebola. It has to do with the 2014 block being taken out. He explains that in great detail. But just some food for thought there. And without further ado, I'm going to get I hope this is Connie Boucher. Area code 521. Is this Connie Boucher?
Yes, it is.
Hi,
how are you, Andrew? Great.
Oh, hi. I'm doing great. And by the way, you didn't have any problem with me saying that you look great for your age, and I would not believe that you were a grandma if I see you. You didn't take offense to that, did you? That's why I was stunned, because I was afraid you might take offense to that.
No, that's actually a side effect of living well.
Okay.
You don't look and you don't act your age, you don't feel your age, and sometimes you don't act. I mean, you don't look or feel, and sometimes you don't even have to act your age. So,
I know.
no, it's great. Thank you.
Thank you for not taking offense to that. I know some people can be sensitive about crazy things, but it's great to have you on. I was introduced to you by Jimmy Winskowski, and was introduced to you through email, said you'd make a great guest, and I've wanted to get a health expert on my show for quite a while. I tried to get Dr. Joel Wallach on the show in the not-too-distant past, and he wasn't able to come on due to many cancellations and all, but I'm glad to have you on, especially since you want to educate and empower and help people thrive. It says so right here in your description. So I guess this is a situation where I should probably ask my guest to get into a little bit of a life story here, because you realize that what's going on in this world is a lie, in your case, health. And it was through that experience that you realized things need to change. So I'm going to let you get into your life story here to wake people up to what's going on. So tell us how you realized that the health system is a fraud. You got the floor.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Well, I started out never thinking about my health. In fact, the only thing I was concerned about health-related was looking good. So I had the idea that as long as I didn't get fat, I would be healthy. My mother's side of the family tended to have a weight issue, and so there were also a lot of diseases that ran along with that. And so my mom would tell me when I was a teenager, well, you might as well accept the fact that you're going to have this because it runs in the family. And I just looked at them all and thought, no, obesity runs in the family, and I'm not having that. So I got married, and I started drinking Diet Coke. And that was my thing I did. Instead of eating, I did that a lot. And then that was also when SnackWells came out, so that was cool too. I could eat low-calorie, fat-free food that really wasn't food. And so I basically lived on SnackWells and Diet Coke. A large percentage of what I ate was that. And I did that all through my 20s. And then I got into my 30s, and I started getting really sick. And I'd always had bladder infections. I've always had a propensity to have that. So I went to the doctor, and I got on antibiotics. And, I had a couple of other things, too, like fungus was on my feet and my hands. I would get those. And so I just take cortisone cream and antibiotics. And I did that consistently through my 20s, along with not eating. And then I got into my 30s, and I started getting really sick. And I gained weight. The weight wouldn't go off. And so I was going to the doctor a lot. And they just gave me all sorts of medicine. They tried all sorts of things. And for about 3 years, I took a lot of medicine. And I didn't get better. I just got progressively worse. So I went from feeling low-grade bad to really high-grade bad. And, I didn't want to know what I had. I just wanted something to make it go away. And finally, my doctor said, I don't know what to do for you. You need to go find yourself a new doctor. I've tried everything. And that was scary to me. And because I didn't know what else you did. And I had some friends that kept telling me they thought my immune system was impaired from all the medicine and that I should try herbs. And I thought they were crazy because I knew I was really sick and I couldn't see how a plant was going to help me. And so finally, when my doctor told me go find a new doctor, I became a little more open-minded. And I honestly didn't know what else to do. That was the only reason I even tried it. And so one of the friends went with me to the store, and we just bought some basic things. I think we bought lobelia and mullein, and I don't even remember, but just a couple of things that she had a little book, and we looked in, and she said, we'll take these. Oh, echinacea and golden seal. And I took them, and I was shocked because they worked. Within a couple of weeks, I was pretty much over it. And this was something that I'd had a bronchial and sinus infection for almost a year, a good solid 9 months. I just couldn't get over them, and they were better. So I was like, wow, this worked. And then just a few more things happened in my life, and I ended up in massage therapy school, which really wasn't something I'd planned on ever or even thought about. But I ended up divorced and I had all these kids, and I needed to get a job, something that would support me. And a couple of people suggested massage, and I laughed. And then the more I looked into it, I thought, okay, well, I probably could do that. So I went to massage school, and it changed my life because I learned that the body, I learned to think about the body in terms of what's causing the disease and going into the root cause and fixing it rather than putting a Band-Aid on it. And I realized that I'd caused a lot of my health issues because of my really poor eating habits. You can't eat chemicals and expect to be healthy. And then I learned that I had been taking a lot of medicine, which was just putting a Band-Aid on the problem. It wasn't fixing anything, and it was actually really further confusing my body and creating more problems. And so I learned about herbs and essential oils and energy work and all of the other kind of what I had considered weird things in the past. And I learned that what they do is they just work with your body to help your body come back into a homeostate or balanced condition so the body can heal itself. Anyway, it made sense. And I started doing it. And honestly, mostly it was because I didn't have insurance anymore. I really didn't have money. I couldn't afford to go to the doctor. So I had learned about herbs. I knew they kind of worked. I thought they worked. And, before I really wasn't even 100% sold on that, because it had been spring, and I thought, okay, well, it's just the weather change. It's not just the herbs that made me feel better. They helped. But anyway, I'm now, I have no money, and I've got all this education, and I think, well, what do I have to lose? I can afford herbs. So I started doing the natural stuff, and it worked. And I have not been to a doctor in over 20 years, and I've been able to take care of everything naturally. So I'm a huge, huge believer in just taking care of yourself, and it doesn't have to be tricky. So I teach people how to do that.
Thanks a lot. And the medical system, as it exists in America, with the Rockefellers creating a medical monopoly about 100 years ago to control the medical system, to make allopathic medicine the only medicine that you can legally practice in America. I am very familiar with this because my mother is a ophthalmologist, a very well-respected one, who makes well over $100,000 a year. And I, with a lot of pain in my heart to do this, decided that I should show her a video that Dr. Peter Glidden talked about when he was on the Alex Jones show, about how the medical system is a fraud for all practical purposes, because allopathic medicine, what MDs are trained to practice, will not cure things. It is only designed to treat the symptoms. It's great for trauma and surgery, but it's not good for curing things. It doesn't work like that. And I've also talked about the big pharma conspiracy to get people addicted to drugs so they can control them better, psychiatric medicine and all. And, when I explained this to my mother, that her the reason she keeps getting richer and richer all the time, and more people keep coming to see her, is because it's designed to treat the symptoms and not the causes. She said, well, if people don't want to see me, then they are more than welcome to see someone else. And I think that was pretty much the only answer she could have given that was appropriate for that situation. So do you have any words of encouragement or anything to say to all the MDs out there who, even if they know that they're working for a fraudulent medical system in some sense, they realize they have no choice and want to think they're doing good? Do you have anything to say to them?
Well, yes. First of all, I totally agree with you about the Rockefellers and Big Pharma. I got all that a long time ago, and it's a racket. And I have a friend who is an orthopedic surgeon, and I used to get into it with him after I went to massage school, because I said, so clients would come to me and they said they'd gone to him, they'd gotten a cortisone shot. And I said, why are you doing that? Do you know what cortisone does? And he said, yes. So in case you don't know what cortisone does, it literally destroys your joints and ligaments, and, it just weakens them. And he said, well, yes, but there's no other options. We don't have anything else we can do. And I said, that's a bunch of baloney. So we had to talk about things he could do. And at some point, a couple of years into our friendship, he went to school to learn to be a acupuncturist. And he said to me, it's really crazy because I get better results with acupuncture than I do with doing the orthopedic things that I've been trained to do. But he said, first of all, people don't really trust the acupuncture because they're not really sure that will work. And he said, the second thing is it's hard for me to really do this because I can't make enough money to support my family the way I'm used to doing it if I'm just doing the acupuncture. And so first of all, right there, I love that a doctor admitted that to me. And second of all, it's really advantageous, I believe, for anyone in the medical profession to become way more open-minded about natural medicine and at least incorporate that into their practice, because that is the wave of the future. That's where people are going. And I feel like if you're really close to that, you know, whether you're the patient or the doctor, it's really going to end up biting you in the end, because we are totally changing the way that we think of healthcare.
Yes, and with that said, I'm going to give you the opportunity to voice your opinions about Obamacare. I've voiced mine many times before, but now you have the chance to express your feelings about that system, which is designed to screw us over.
Yeah, well, it's not going to work. I mean, it isn't going to work. The only thing that it's going to do is it's going to create more paperwork for everybody. It's just going to create a big problem. The problem that we have isn't that people need more medical care or that we need our medical care paid for. What we need to do is learn how to take care of ourselves so we're not sick all the time. And then, I mean, we need to put the money into educating people, and we need to put the money into changing some of the companies the way that they're allowed legally to produce food. We have children that are, this is the first time ever in the whole generation of history that kids are getting old age diseases before their parents. And many, many professionals have predicted that the children will die before the parents. So we have some major, major problems with what's coming down the food chain system and the way that we're educating or not educating people about taking care of their health. And we're not talking about tricky things. We're talking about eating real organic fruits and vegetables and not eating chemicals. And if you are going to eat meat and you're going to eat dairy and eggs, eat the highest quality, best, free-range stuff that you can. Get some exercise, get some sleep, be positive. I mean, it's stuff like that that really keeps us healthy, not, anything that any tricky, confusing, expensive thing that we do, and we're not doing it. We're not eating food, and we're not, if you look at TV and you look at just stuff that's out there, it's not positive. It's negative. It's just non-productive. And so you put junk in, you're going to get junk out. And that's a big part of our problem. And if we continue going on the way that we're going, there's not going to be enough people to support taking care of all of the unhealthy people in our nation, Obamacare or not. I mean, somebody has to fund that. And what we're doing is we're tipping the scale on the side of the people who need. And there's not going to be enough people to take care of all those people. And that's the bottom line if we just let it keep going the way it's going.
Damn straight. And I'm sure you have researched the subjects of GMO in food and fluoride in water. I know I'd be preaching to the choir to a lot of people here, but hey, my show is for new people too. I'm sure you've looked at this because you realize, this is what makes us sick, and you just made that clear. Are there any specific things about GMO in food and fluoride in water that you want to tell people to make it clear, hey, this is a very unhealthy way. Look at my stuff instead.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, so if you look at what fluoride is, it's rat poison. It's in rat poison. I mean, there's nothing that really proves that fluoride helps teeth. In fact, there have been some studies shown. I have it in my book, and I can't tell you what it is right now, but there's a big study done. It was like over several years, over several countries, and what they found is that people who had fluoride actually had problems with their bones and their teeth more than people who didn't. And it's one of those big propaganda things that we've just been brainwashed to believe is good for us. It really isn't. And in fact, so I use doTERRA on guard toothpaste, and I know a lot of other people that use it. And what's really interesting is that several of the people that are using this brand of toothpaste are finding that any gum issues they had are clearing up, that little minor teeth problems that they've had for years are going away. And also what they're finding is it's whitening their teeth, and that they're not flossing. And even though they're not flossing, they're getting the same benefits as if they flossed. So, and another thing about toothpaste is if you read the label on toothpaste, It tells you to call poison control if you swallow it. Hello? The mouth is like everything you put in your mouth is absorbed immediately into your system. If it's so poison that you shouldn't be brushed or that you can't swallow it, why on earth would we be brushing our teeth with it? And why would that be legal? So, there's one thing right there. Like, some of this stuff is just common sense. If you read something and it says in the fine print, especially if it's something that goes in your mouth 2 or 3 times a day, not to swallow it, or if you have to call poison control, you should not be using it. And you shouldn't be putting that in your kid's mouth. So there's one thing. And then the GMO, oh my gosh, that's totally, totally scary. Have you ever heard of Franken whatever, Franken animals, Franken foods? That's GMO stuff. If it does it to the food, what's it going to do to us? Why do you think they put it in food? It's so that they will be able to make chickens turn into 10 times of what they were intended to do. Well, if it's doing that to the chicken and then we're eating the chicken, it's doing it to us too. It's creating some crazy health problems in people. So, it's just this is like not rocket science. If it came organically from the earth and it hasn't been messed with by man, eat it. And if it hasn't, don't. And if it's something that, is like a poison control thing, you shouldn't be putting it in your system, even if they sell all over the place and it's just a normal thing that everybody should do. Anyway, that's my take on it.
Yeah, and I use Tom's of Maine toothpaste, which is fluoride-free. It costs more, but I feel it is definitely worth it to keep the fluoride out of your toothpaste and the GMO out of your food. And I am fortunate enough to live in a town where I do have a little leeway in drinking tap water because they go to great lengths to keep the water as pure as possible and remove the fluoride in it. So I give my local government a little kudos to that one. But moving on, one thing that I love to do is to get out into nature as much as possible, and even though the best time to do it is probably in the spring and summer months, the most relaxing and enjoyable and luxurious, in reality you should get out into nature more in the autumn and the winter because that's when there's less sunlight, so you want to compensate for that by getting out into nature even if there isn't a lot of green around you. Would you advocate getting out into nature? Because metaphysically speaking, they say getting out into nature, among other things, neutralizes everything in your body for the better.
Oh, absolutely. There's so many benefits. It's hard to even know where to start. But if you just get a daily dose of sunlight, going out into just the sun without sunblock, without something to filter it, 20 minutes will give you enough vitamin D to really significantly increase your immunity. And then there's the idea of just what you're breathing in. Even outside air that seems to be polluted has been shown to be more beneficial than what's inside of a house. There's more chemicals and there's more things floating around that we don't want to absorb inside than outside. And nature's a great cleanser. It's going to clean, even though the air might be polluted, it's going to be cleaned up a lot faster outside than inside your house. So, yeah, it's great to be outside and to walk. So I'm really good friends with Dr. Susan Lawton, and she has been working with cancer patients for years. And she's a very, very respected doctor, and she's so fun to listen to because she says, you want to be healthy, you drink water. You drink clean water. You don't eat sugar. You eat greens, and you walk for 20 minutes a day. And then she does this thing, and she says, and I don't care if you walk like this, and it's just like a slow shuffle. She said, walk, get outside, and move for 20 minutes a day. You will greatly improve your health. And it's really that simple. It's not like you have to do real tricky, hard things. You just have to do some basics every day or, really consistently.
Yes. And one thing about the sun, well, it's nothing like what we're told it's like. It's not power and nuclear fusion. It's actually a hot spot like all stars are in a universal web of electromagnetic energy. And the reason I bring that up is because of the subject of sun gazing. Some websites say you should only, if you want to do sun gazing, only do it in the first hour of sunrise and the last hour of sunset, because then there's no UV rays or other harm to your body. But Akashic Records reader Andrew Bartz has said, no, you can look at the sun and sun gaze anytime, even at high noon. Your body may not enjoy the brightness of it, but it will not hurt your vision. It bypasses the physical and goes right to the brain to, just like what I said with nature, neutralize everything for the better in your body. Have you looked into the subject of sun gazing? And now that I brought this to your attention, are you willing to encourage people to look at the sun anytime the sun is out?
You know what? I actually haven't ever considered that, but it makes sense, especially if you're not doing it for long, long periods of time. I'm not afraid of the sun. And I'm really in favor of being in the sun and not wearing sunblock. And I was so excited because I just read about an article or about a study that was done in Sweden. It was a 20-year study, and it was over a ton of people, a lot of people. And what they found was that people who did not put sunblock on and just went out in the sun on a regular basis did not have nearly as high a risk of getting cancer as people who slathered themselves in sunblock and avoided it. That they, over a long period of time, the ones that were afraid of the sun and that wore sunblock were more inclined to get skin cancer. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So, yeah, I have not looked at the sun. I've not thought about that, but I'm not afraid of it, and I'm willing to do it. Willing to look into that and definitely promote it.
All right, glad I encouraged you. Another thing I want to talk about, which some people say is a little controversial, is the subject of using hallucinogenic substances to help you out. Now, I want to make it very clear that one of the biggest lies we've been told is that drugs are illegal. They're not illegal. They're against public policy. If anybody wants to figure out why that is true, listen to my interview with Eddie Craig. But the point is, this is not about the legality of drugs I'm talking about here. This is about whether or not taking hallucinogenic psychoactive substances like marijuana, ayahuasca, peyote, and even LSD for entheogenic and spiritual purposes is in the best interest. And is there anything you want to say about this, or is this not a subject you go into?
Well, I'm just not a fan of it. I found that those sorts of things muddy up your system. They definitely muddy up your energy. And so for me, when I think of someone who's wanting to go into a spiritual practice like yoga and be meditative, numbing yourself isn't the idea. The idea is to have all that stuff cleaned out of your system so you can be a pure conduit and so that you can actually really receive information. And it was interesting because I had a friend with a conversation the other day with a really powerful healer friend of mine, and she said that she never drinks before she works on people. And she said that she had recently been with some friends, and it was a birthday, and they were celebrating, and she said, I only had a half a glass of wine. And then she said she needed her friend needed something, so she said, I put my hands on her, and she said, I thought, this is interesting. I can't feel what I can normally feel. She said, it was almost like I had something between my hands and her, and I couldn't. It was like stopping me from feeling. And so I thought, well, okay, that's great. That totally confirms what I believe, which is that when you're in a numbed state or an altered state, you can't really feel what's going on. So I'm not a big believer in that at all. I'd say no.
Okay. It's something a lot of people don't want to touch, but I do want to talk about other ways to move your body around for the better. Two specific ways. Maybe we'll do them one at a time instead of combining them. The subject of yoga. I do not do yoga. I do Aikido, but I'll get into that in a little bit. I really know all the details about how yoga helps your body other than, well, it helps you spiritually, and all that. But, I mean, the little bits and pieces, I am not an expert on that subject. If you have looked into the subject of yoga, could you tell us the who, what, when, where, why, and how of how it helps you out? I'll give you the floor on this one if you know what you're talking about.
Oh, I do. I love yoga. I do it. I don't practice it every day regularly, but I do practice. I mean, regularly, but not like every day. Also, Tai Chi, Qigong. I love all of those practices because they really quiet you. They just disconnect you from all the stuff that's going around you, and they really put you into alignment with just you, what's going on with your body, and they open everything. So by the time you finished a session, you just feel open, you feel calm, you feel centered. They just get the energy moving and realigned. I love them. So I'm always happy to find a class I can go to.
Okay, but are there any bits and pieces that you can maybe tell us about in regards to how this specific practice of yoga will help this specific part of you? I mean, are there other different subsets and sub-actions in yoga that will affect certain parts of you? I mean, I'm willing to let you treat this as an instruction manual if you want to, just to get people accustomed to this.
Well, I've just written a new book called Chakra Wellness Made Simple. And so with each one of the chakras, so chakras are energy centers, and we have 7 of them that run from the root of our spine, base of our spine, to the top crown of our head. And each chakra is associated with different organs and glands and body parts. And so there are different yoga poses that open each chakra. And so what I do when I teach classes and we do chakra balancing, or just when I'm doing it for myself, is I will put an oil on that chakra, an essential oil, and then I will say an affirmation in my mind. I'll just hold that information as I do the pose, and it's very opening, and it's really cool because I teach this, and then people will come to me all the time and say, I did that, and it really made a difference. I could feel something release. I could really feel it open. So I like to do that with intention that, as you're in the position, whatever part of your body you're in where you're just opening, really allow that energy to open and come out. So it's hard to do that specifically, to talk about this set of poses is good for this, because that's just not something that you can do easily on a call. It's easier on a video. But there's so much stuff out there. I mean, go to YouTube and just look at yoga videos, and that's your best way to see. But as you do the pose, think about it opening the part of your body. Just really allow your body to open. And my daughter's a yoga instructor, and she's always telling me, Mom, it's not how far you can go. It's that you really relax into the pose and you let your body just open naturally. And so that's the secret right there, is you're breathing. As you're breathing, you're bringing in the breath, and then you're letting the breath out, and you just hold the pose and allow your body to open.
Right. And also another thing that people will practice, the subject of martial arts I want to get into. I just mentioned I take Aikido, and it has been said by many that if there is one martial art that would be the best martial art, it would be Aikido, for one simple fact. You do not use violence to escalate violence in Aikido, but in all the other martial arts, to some degree, you do. And karate would take that to an extreme. In Aikido, you do not engage your attacker. You let your attacker attack you, and then you use solid self-defense with possibly a little bit of a blow at the end to subdue the guy, to get him down in subdue him in a position where he cannot resist, or if he does resist, he'll feel a little bit of pain. The goal is to defend yourself without inflicting a lot of pain on your opponent, and I've already advanced to the rank of second blue belt. Don't know the exact Q ranking in that, but in regards to martial arts and how it can help you, you can talk all about this, and not just about Aikido and karate, but maybe some other ones if you know anything about it.
Well, yeah, I know a little more about Aikido than anything, and the reason why I'm interested in that is just what you said. It's not about attacking, but it's about really creating that strength in yourself to block your opponent and defend yourself. So it's more of an energy opening, energy managing art, and that's so. What's really cool? There's not just one thing that works for everybody. There's so many different things out there. You find the one that works for you, and then you just really practice it until you're with it. And so I always teach people that it's not like you just say it or you just do it. What you want to do is you want to do it or say it to the extent where you feel it. It goes through you. You're opening, and it's literally going into your whole body and moving everything in your body. That's when you get the health benefits. No matter what it is you're doing, if you're even if you're just walking, if you're doing it with a mindfulness where you're allowing your body to really open and release, that's when what's very, very healthy for you. Do you see what I'm saying? So it doesn't really matter which one you're doing or how the specific little thing you're doing, as much as you're just moving your body, whatever your instruction is, learn it, do it, but then allow your body to really get into it. So it's not in your head, it goes into your body. The movement actually goes from your body, not just your head.
Yeah, right.
Is that what you're getting for at all?
Yeah. Sorry, it just took me a while to get off the unmute button. Took a while for some reason there. But one thing I would like to talk about here, getting back to food, Peter Glidden, Dr. Peter Glidden, he did make a little bit of a statement that people might consider controversial and maybe would say, well, that's not true. The usual that is not true excuse. But this is like in a serious manner here, because he once said, you cannot get all the 90 essential nutrients. There's 90 essential nutrients that your body needs, and you need to get them all at some point, because if you lack one, then something is going to happen to your body, and you cannot, he said, cannot get it from just food alone. You have to supplement. And I'm saying, well, a lot of people say, well, that is not true. You certainly can get everything you need from food, but the problem is you'd have to be really, really picky, do a lot of measurements, make sure all the food has the right ratios of nutrients, and also in the end, make sure that you don't eat a lot that's going to make you fat. That is, if you don't mind getting fat. But the statement, you can't get all 90 essential nutrients from food alone, you have to supplement, is that something to which you'd say that is not true, or is he right on that in some degree?
No, I'd agree he's right on that. I'd agree that if you are a really, really, really good eater, and everything you just said, you were super picky about what you ate, and that would be your whole life, to just make sure you micromanaged all your eating, you could get a large amount of what you need. But who does that? And even so, there are trace minerals or trace things that just aren't in all the food. And I've taken a lot of different supplements. I've tried a lot of different things, and everybody says their stuff's better. And honestly, I've never been able to tell that anybody's was really significantly better than anybody else's until I started doing doTERRA. And I've been taking their Lifelong Vitality Pack for 6 years now, and my husband and I both have. We have seen huge benefits. He's had allergies. For years he had allergies, and he would have the type of allergies where his nose would just run like a sieve, like nonstop. His nose would run. He could not stop it from running. He'd be really, really congested, and no matter what he did, he could not get over that. We started taking those supplements, and about 2 months into it, he said, you know what, I'm not having that problem anymore. And then at one point we stopped, and it started happening again. So he's like, all right, that's it. I'm taking these the rest of my life. And plus, so if you think I look good, you should see him. He looks amazing. But he's, really good. He eats well, but he's very, very adamant about getting good nutrition in the form of supplementation. So he's sold on them. For me, what I noticed is that I used to have massive sugar cravings. I don't crave sugar anymore. And I also have had problems with depression, like mood swings. So I'd be up, down, and I don't have that anymore. I'm just really constant with my moods. And our energy levels are up a lot. So I really do believe if you can find a very good supplement, something that's truly good, and it does what it says it's doing, and there's a lot out there that say they are, and they don't. This is the only brand I've ever found that really works for me. I believe in taking them. And I also believe in taking probiotics. So I have a friend who just got her master's in London, and for her dissertation, she did a study, and she did this Lifelong Vitality Pack supplement on people with depression and mood disorders. And what they found was that every single person that used the supplements, their depression, no matter what type of diagnosed condition they had, got better, and quite a bit better. And then what they also found is that when
Connie Boucher, you have dropped. Hang on, I'm just going to call her number, see if maybe she could respond. Hopefully she'll call in here, but just to see if she's if that was just an accident. Hang on a second, folks. We'll hope to get her back on in a moment. Yeah, just call back into the show. Can you? All right, bye. Well, folks, that was her who answered. She'll call back into the show. It's been a while since I've talked about health on a very serious manner here. Wanted to get Joe Wallach on, but he couldn't come on. A couple cancellations, and then the runaround. It was like every day I asked, he was not available. But now I have Connie Boucher on, and she's spiritual in her work. Dr. Joe Wallach, I don't think he's all that spiritual. So, well, no insult to him. It's just that he didn't seem to put spirituality into his interviews on Alex Jones and the rest of them that I've seen with him. Actually, I don't watch the Alex Jones show anymore. I only watch the InfoWars Nightly News. But this is a very interesting information. I mean, even though we are infinite consciousness and we are spirit having a human experience, we need to understand that in this 3D matrix, you have to get proper health, proper nutrients, and all the rest of it. And if you don't, because there's 90 essential nutrients that you need, and even if you're missing a little bit of one, like as a matter of fact, lead, I believe that Peter Glidden said that lead of all, well, actually, I hold that thought. Just know you need a little bit of lead, maybe a little bit, but not enough that's going to poison you. Hey, Connie, can you hear me? Glad to have you back on the air.
I can. Sorry, I don't know what happened. I'm on my cell phone and I just went blank, and then I couldn't get anything to do anything. So okay, I'm back.
That happens on Blog Talk every so often, but I hope you didn't lose your train of thought, because apparently I did. Where exactly were you when you got kicked off there?
Well, I know I was saying something about a friend who did a dissertation on supplements, especially the ones that I'm using, the Lifelong Vitality Pack. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I believe I did.
Okay, so she went to school in London, and she was studying the brain. And what they did is they had several people, like I don't know how many, but a lot, that had been diagnosed with a mood disorder or depression, different, ranging in from very serious to just mild. And they had these people take Lifelong Vitality Pack supplements, and they controlled, it was a controlled study. And what they found is that no matter what they were diagnosed with, no matter if they were serious or not so serious, that their symptoms decreased significantly when they took the supplements. Then they also did the same thing, but they added a really good probiotic. In fact, it's a doTERRA one. It's PBSS. And what they found when they did that is that their depression dropped completely down with the probiotic. And so what she said is, I learned from that study that I will never go a day without taking my supplements and also a probiotic. So, yes, I think they're important. I think they're really important.
Yeah, I guess you do have to supplement at some level to get all the essential nutrients and all. But another subject about food I want to discuss, it has been said that humans now are going to be as part of our consciousness shift, get accustomed to eating more plant foods and all, and not eating meat as much. But something about meat that I want to discuss for a little bit. You may notice, if you ever watch the Discovery Channel or Animal Planet, that when a lion eats its prey, and by the way, the lion does have to do a lot of hunting. When a lion eats its prey, it goes through a lot of trouble to eat specific parts of it and not the muscle tissue. It eats pretty much everything that's edible except the muscle tissue. And why is that? Well, because muscle tissue is toxic. Okay, so why do we humans eat it? Good question. Maybe the answer is because all that other stuff that we could eat and the animals consider disgusting, so we eat the stuff that's poisonous. Well, do you have anything to say about this subject of muscle tissue actually being toxic? And after you talk about that, talk about the idea that humans in more recent times are going to be more herbivorous instead of omnivorous.
Well, I don't know about muscle tissue, but I do know about the energy. And so whenever you consume something, you're consuming the energy of it. So, for example, I like to eat food that has been grown by someone who really loves what they do. And then I want to eat something that's been prepared by somebody who's doing it with love, rather than, for example, I've been to a couple of fast food restaurants and I've looked at the people working there and I've thought, no, thank you. I would not want to eat that, because I don't want that energy. I don't want to absorb that energy. And then I've also been to a few slaughterhouses, and I've looked at the animals dying, and I look at just the energy of them. Let it go alone whether they've been fed GMO food or anything else like that, but I don't want that energy. I don't want to take that in. So I'm always thinking about the vibrational level of something, because the higher vibrational I am, the healthier I'm going to be. So I don't really like eating animals much, because I don't like the idea of how they're going through this dying process. And if I do eat an animal, I'm going to eat something that's been grown on a smaller farm, that was more of a free range type of, that where I know they've been fed organic food, and where the process of killing them was more of a humane, natural process. So that's where I go from right there. So in anything that's like a terror or fear emotion is going to create toxicity in the meat, whether you're eating the muscle or anything else. And I'm a big fan of eating plant foods, especially greens, raw greens. I do a green smoothie every morning and really teach that. That's a great habit to get into. You will save yourself a lot of health issues if you just do a green smoothie with some kale and organic kale, Swiss chard, spinach, things like that, and put a little fruit in there and do that every morning. It's kind of one of those things you think would be icky, but once you start doing it, you realize they're really good. And it's amazing. It's like doctor in a glass. So, you know, the whole Ebola thing, the big fear that's out there now.
Oh, yeah, who hasn't heard about it?
Well, you know, just keeping your immunity up is going to really, really help protect you from anything like that. More than anything else is just keeping your immunity up. So taking practices to keep yourself healthy is going to be better than going into fear and trying to get a immunization or, you know, whatever you can do. Because the virus, medicine doesn't kill viruses. That's another reason why I like essential oils. But it's not just an essential oil that has antiviral properties that's going to work, but really keeping your system healthy in the first place so that you are going to prevent some of that just by living a lifestyle that wards off the disease.
Yeah, just a quick thing I want to touch on, the health benefits of alcohol. A lot of women will say it is in my best interest to drink maybe a glass of red wine a day, and white wine would also have some benefits, they say, but not the same as red wine. Can you quickly touch on that for a moment, health benefits of alcohol and why women in particular would say they benefit from it?
You know, I don't know. I personally don't drink alcohol. However, I would say that a really good glass of wine is probably better for you than a Coke or a Diet Coke or something that's just full of sugar and chemicals. So I can't really speak a lot about that, but if you're going to, you know, no matter what you're going to do, make sure it's a higher quality, good thing. I know people that do drink wine and they believe it helps them, and okay, so good for you. So, you know, you hear red wine has some of the, I can't even think what they're called right now, but you know, the red things that are supposed to be so good for you. But there's a lot of other things too. They're in the supplements I take. So I don't need to take wine. And I told you what I think about that. Anything that numbs me, I'm really interested in having high energy. And so anything that's going to deplete that in any way, I'm not interested in doing. Sugar does that. So I try to not eat sugar also. So that's my take on it. But if you're going to drink wine, I would say drink a good quality organic wine, and it's going to be better than some of the other stuff that people consume in large, copious amounts that are really, really bad for them.
Right, and can you a comment on the dangers of aspartame for those people that aren't familiar with that? Do you know anything about that?
Oh, I sure do.
Go ahead.
It fries your brain. It totally fries your brain. It's a big contributor to Alzheimer's. It's a huge contributor to ADD, ADHD in kids, and that's a really big problem that we have right now. So it's just a neurotoxin for the brain. It's really, really bad.
Well said. It's a neurotoxin for the brain. That should be enough to convince you not to take it. Here's another subject, and some might consider taboo. Sports-enhancing drugs, like people talk about performance-enhancing drugs in sports, like steroids and all. And in my interview with sports rigging expert Brian Toohey, he said that in sports they the athletes are still using steroids. The suspensions are handed out selectively. If the athletes use steroids, it makes the sport a lot more entertaining to watch. Many people would say, dude, they're grown men. Let them put in their body whatever the hell they please. That's one area of this. But another area I want to touch on is not steroids, but other muscle supplements, so to speak, like androstenedione and androstenediol. And I'm going to admit right now, live on the air, when I was in high school, I was a throw on the track team and a football player, and I did actually take creatine. Many would say, oh my God, that's steroids for the poor man. What's the matter with you? Well, no, you actually take creatine every single time you eat meat, and people in Argentina who eat a lot of beef, they basically, with all the beef they eat, they take in as much creatine as your average person who goes to the gym that takes creatine. So it's kind of hard to say that creatine is a drug when you eat it every time you eat meat. And I never had any problems with it. I made sure to always drink so much water to the point where my urine was never yellow. Sorry if anybody finds that disgusting, but I did make sure that you got to stay hydrated in order for that stuff to stay effective. And there's a lot of debate as to whether or not creatine really is harmful for you. But if you drink a lot of water, that it's been said, no, it's not going to harm you at all. Not that it would, even if you didn't. But the point is, performance-enhancing drugs like steroids, androstenedione, and creatine. Anything to say about that, and maybe some other drugs there?
Well, if you're going to take them, I'd use the higher quality ones. But honestly, my husband is a really great example. He looks amazing, and people are asking what he does. He doesn't eat meat. He's like maybe, a little tiny bit, maybe once a month, a little, not even a whole piece, but like a little bit in something. So he's not a meat eater. He doesn't take performance-enhancing anything. He does take the supplements I told you about. He does take the probiotics I told you that I take. And he's a really good eater. He drinks green smoothies every morning. He's really big on not putting sugar or chemicals in his body. And he can do anything. He'll go up against guys who take all sorts of stuff, and he can totally outperform them. So, and he's also really positive. I don't know, I'm not a big believer in all that stuff. And just so you know, I have a bodybuilding background, and I've taken a lot of creatine, and I've taken a lot of other stuff. And I'm thinking that as you get further down the road, that stuff shows up in a way that's not attractive on your body, whether it, you just don't continue looking good as you get older, but you can't perform the same. But now you also have put all that stuff into your body, and it's stored in your tissues and in your cells, and so you start having some health problems because of it. So it's great when you're in the moment, but if you're thinking about your body holding out down the road, it's not so great.
All right,
I'm getting close to 60, and I honestly don't want to feel 60, I don't want to look 60, and I don't want to act 60. So I'm really, really careful about what I put in my body. And I'm not going to put something in that, and I used to do that, and I've spent a lot of years detoxing. I've put a lot of time and energy into cleaning out what I used to put in my body. So I'm just not a big fan of it. I'm really more of a nature girl.
Yeah, man, and I'm a nature man too. I say I'm a nature man, you're a nature woman. But one thing I do want to talk about on that actual note, believe it or not, and I don't know if you're an expert on this because of your gender, but I did watch a documentary recently talking about how men, you probably should abstain from masturbation because if you masturbate, it's going to take the spirituality out of you. And I don't know to what degree that is true with women, but can you offer any comment on that idea you should practice celibacy because if you don't, you'll lose spirituality?
Well, I don't really have a lot of comments but on that one particular subject, but I do know that I really like the idea of being in a relationship where all my needs are met through another person, not trying to entertain myself with something. So I don't know. I'm a big believer in find someone that you love and you can really get along with and be monogamous with that person.
Oh, okay, thanks. One thing a lot of people like to... It's okay. I didn't really know if you'd be an expert on that anyway, because that is a gender-specific question and all. But moving on, Gardening. I do have my own garden. I do like to garden, and they say that when you start gardening, you don't want to stop gardening because there's just something in the human psyche that what makes you want to keep doing it. Unfortunately, some animal destroyed all my corn plants, and I think I'll put barbed wire on top of the garden next season. But in regards to gardening and how to do it, do you have any advice on the best way to garden to make you feel really good when you garden, and are there any specific techniques that you would advise to people in regards to how to make the most of gardening?
Oh, yeah, I'm so glad you asked that, because I am a gardener. I love to garden. And I have found that the best way to like gardening is to make it so it's really not work. And so I have raised beds, and between them I have landscape fabric with that brown bark on them. And so I have a watering system that just waters inside the bed. So that cuts down on 99.9% of the weeds. And that is a huge plus for wanting to like to garden, because there's not anything, you don't have to go out and just fight with a big weed patch. And then the other thing is get your soil right first. I love Mel Bartholomew's from his raised bed garden book. He has a soil mix. And so I mix that and I put that in my beds, and then every year I just make more and put on top. And I also get compost and put on top what I'm trying to say, kind of from a landfill. They have like a compost thing that you can get, and I work that into my garden, and I compost everything. And then I just put the compost back in too. I spread that on top of my beds. And you rotate your crops every year. And I just have found what I like to grow, and that's what I grow. I don't try to grow everything. And if you have corn that something got into, it was probably raccoons. If you have raccoons around, they love corn. So you really got to wall it up so they don't get into it. But just for me, not having to do all the work, like if I have a lot of weeds and I'm not being able to water easily, then I don't like gardening. But if I have it so that go out and I can just get to my things really easily, and I don't have weeds to fight through, and it's just watered. Mine's on the sprinkling system. It just waters itself every morning. It's fun. I just go out and pick and eat, and I eat out of my garden all summer long. And I'm so glad it hasn't frozen yet. And so I'm still eating, and I do green smoothies out of the garden all summer. But you just have to make it fun. Get rid of your weeds, get your soil so it's really good and your plants will produce well. I love raised beds because it's just a lot easier to manage them. And then just grow what you like and have fun with it.
Right. One other thing I want to talk about in regards to your work specifically, says you're a massage therapist. I don't know how acupuncture is related to this. I guess acupuncture, you stick the needles in the body, it activates certain parts on the body. The massage is similar in that sense, except you're not using a needle. There are certain places on the body where you want to rub, like on the hands and also the feet. There are a lot of areas that the specific areas that you would rub to help specific parts. Can you perhaps talk about the whole subject of massaging and how it helps you in the specific body parts and how that whole thing works? You got the floor on this to tell us the science behind this.
Sure. Well, first of all, we're hardwired to be touched. So just being touched is really therapeutic. So when I do a massage, I don't just rub on a certain spot. I just do a massage on the whole body, and I kind of have a little flow of what I do. So I work every area, and I work pretty thoroughly. Everything that, is, except for a few private parts, I work everything. And I don't work those. Even I've had a few guys ask me to, but I don't go there. But for actually acupuncture is where you do needles, but you're working with a energy flow, like when the organs or the meridians. And so if you just hold on those spots, you can still influence the energy, and that's called acupuncture. And so I do a lot of that. I just hold. And you can learn. There's charts and there's books, and you can learn what the places are, and you can learn to hold. It's not hard. I just hold, and I don't even really think about that. I just kind of put my hands where I feel guided and just hold until the energy balances. So one thing that anybody that's trying this needs to know is that intention is 95% or 85% of your success. So even if you have no idea what you're doing, or you're not really good at it, even if your intention was just to help someone and you put your hands on them, you're going to be able to make a difference. You're going to be able to help them. And so I always teach people that your heart is the motor for your hands. I end up teaching how to do this more than I actually do it at this point. I've been doing massage for 20 years, so it's a long time. And I go into spas quite often, and I teach their massage therapists how to upgrade their spas, their massages. And so I teach them to think of their heart being the motor for their hands, because if you just touch something with your hands, it's going to have a completely different feeling than if you touch with your heart. You know, it's like a heart-driven motion or movement. And so if you think about it that way, and then you just give someone a massage, meaning like a hand rub or an arm rub or a foot rub or a back rub, it's going to be really beneficial, and it's going to feel good to them.
Yes, I actually don't get a lot of massages, but maybe you've inspired me to consider looking into it to see if it helps me overall. Speaking of helping people out on an overall health level, salts. Andrew Bartzis, reference him a lot. My favorite source, he often talks about how salts are a great way to heal yourself, neutralize your body. Pink Himalayan salt is one that he recommends, and Epsom salts and sea salt. Taking salt baths, he strongly advocates, will really help neutralize things. Do you have anything to say about the subject of salts being beneficial? And he even talks about putting salt on the back of your neck, by the way, is a good way to heal. Anything to say about salts and how to use them to heal?
Yes, I totally agree. That soaking in salt is super beneficial, salt water. And I actually got viral meningitis a little over a year ago, and that is like a crazy, crazy, crazy thing to get. So it's where you have a lot of fungus and virus and bacteria and inflammation, and they all settle in the tissue in your brain, and it makes you feel like you're going crazy. The pain is so intense. And when I had that, at first I just thought I had the flu. I didn't even know what I really had in the beginning. But I instinctively wanted to soak and just put my head in salt water. Isn't that interesting? And I found that just salt by itself is great, but if you really want to make it good, put a pure essential oil with it. And so how that works is you just get however much salt you're going to use. And a quarter cup to a half, 3/4 cup, that's about the right amount. And if you really want to draw something out, go to a larger amount. If you just want to soak, just put some in your tub, just do like the smaller amount. And then you can put anywhere from 2 to 3 to 10, 12, however many drops of essential oil you want in, and you just stir that into the salt, and then you put that in your bath water, and then you just fill your tub and soak. A couple of things that are important to note is that you want to get your water really hot to start with, and then you want to soak and let it cool. And when it gets cool, you want to drain it, and you want to rinse off, and then just pat yourself dry just lightly with a towel. Because if you put hot water back in after it started to cool, it's going to then make your body reabsorb the toxins that you've just soaked out. And you want to make sure that you shower them off and don't leave them on your skin. And then you don't want to rub because your body's still in this sweating, cleaning process, and so you just want to just lightly tap or even air dry. And then it's really good to put something like coconut oil on, or coconut oil with some essential oil in it on, and then that's a great way to just keep that process going and then help your body seal back up and close up naturally. And with essential oils, so I am a massage therapist. I've used oils for 20 years, and I used all different types. I have used probably almost every brand that was out there, and I've never thought any brand was better than any other one. In fact, that's what I always tell people. Look, I'm not a brand girl. I just try them, and I buy the ones I like because I couldn't tell a difference. Some oil I would say, like, well, I like this lavender better than that lavender. But one of my problems that I had was I would find a company, I'd think, okay, I really like this, and I'd get it. And the next time I would get that same oil from them, it would be different. There was not a consistency between batches. And then doTERRA came along, and it was a brand new company, and I had a friend that told me about it, and she's like, these oils are amazing. And I just said, no, I'm so not interested. I've tried everybody's newest, greatest. It's the only thing that's going to be great, or that's really going to be good stuff, and I wouldn't even look. And she made an appointment for a massage, and she brought some oils, and she wouldn't take them home. She left them. She's like, she made me use them on her, and then she said, just keep them, and she wouldn't take them. And so the next time I had a client, I had someone on my table, and I put the oils on her, and she said, she had her eyes closed, and she said, what are you using on me that's really different than anything you've used before? And she could tell. And then I had all of my clients, that's what happened. They would all be able to tell without even looking. So there really is a difference between the quality of the oils. I'm now a brand girl. I only use doTERRA oils, and I highly recommend them. And so what I found is that the reason why I wasn't getting good results with the other oils and I wasn't finding anything that was really special is because a lot of oils have synthetics in them. And when you have a really pure oil, it has a completely different effect on your body. So I would not recommend putting an impure oil with the Epsom salt or any type of a salt and soaking in it, because now you're going to be bringing in chemicals into your body. But if you have a pure essential oil that truly doesn't have any chemicals in it, you have something that's going to really enhance the benefits of the salt. So do you want to know how you can tell the difference between a really pure oil and an oil that isn't really pure?
How?
It's an easy way to do that. Okay. So you can smell them. Some people can immediately tell an oil that's not got something in it, and some people can't. Some people will think they both smell pretty good. But if you put them, like something like a lemon or a peppermint or orange, on the back of your hand, you just drop a little bit and then lick. You can tell the difference that way, because an impure oil is going to have kind of a chemically taste. It will taste bitter, where a real oil will be really strong and potent, but it's going to taste like the plant. And it will smell like the plant. You won't pick up any chemical smell. So that's your big way right there. Just, play with your oils. And you can't, I couldn't tell the difference until I was using the really pure ones, and then I went back to my old ones and went, oh my gosh, these are horrible. So I had about $3,000 worth of oils that I was not going to get rid of. I was going to keep using, and then I didn't because I couldn't stand them. Anyway, so yeah, use salt and soak in it. It's a great way to clean up your stuff. And by the way, I got over viral meningitis, a really serious case of that, without using any medicine or going to a doctor. I was diagnosed by a naturopath, and once I knew what it was, I knew it was viral, and I knew that all the things that I had going on, I could take care of with oils, and so I did. I used Melissa and thyme and was able to get over it, which is pretty impressive.
Good to know that you got over it, and it all helped by changing your lifestyle. One subject briefly touch on here, Greg Prescott of In5D. He lives over 1,000 miles from me in Florida, but we are good friends on Facebook and such, and I've been to his conferences. He advocates drinking ozone water. He credits the ozone water to helping him appear younger in general, among other things, and there are some other benefits that he's talked about. Do you know anything about ozone water, and would you recommend buying an ozone generator to make it drink ozone water?
Yeah, I actually do think that enhances the water. There's a couple of different things out there. I'd read up on them. But yes, I would probably talk around to other people that have tried them and just really fill out. But yes, I do think that there's something to that. I think that just drinking regular city tap water in most cities is not what you think it is. It's not good. I'm a big believer in using good water. So you know how you said you pay a little more for your toothpaste? I pay a little more for a lot of things. And as a result, I've been able to go for 20 years. I don't have medical insurance. I have not been to a doctor, and I haven't taken medicine. So people say, well, I couldn't afford to do that. That is my health insurance. It's my life insurance. I mean, in lots of ways. I put my money in taking care of myself, and then I don't have the problems. So, it's totally worth it. I have a water ionizer, and I'm totally sold on that. Anything that's going to enhance your water and make it so that it's more absorbable into your body, and having a really clean, pure quality of water is a great idea. So I'm with your friend.
Oh, okay. And also iodine. Can you briefly touch on the health benefits of iodine?
Well, first of all, if you're eating iodized salt to get your iodine, iodine is really good for you, but iodized salt is not. So how that works is they take salt, which comes from the sea, and which also has a natural occurring iodine in it, which is going to be absorbable by the body and good for you. They take that out, they bleach the salt, they heat it to really, really high temperatures and destroy anything that's a nutrient that's in it. And then they put in a artificial chemical type of iodine, which now your body can't absorb, and now you've altered the salt, so it's not going to do any of the things that salt is intended to do to help your body. So if you're trying to get iodine, don't eat iodized salt. Just eat salt in its pure natural form. You'll get a great source of iodine that way. Just an unaltered sea salt is going to be good for you. And there's different types. You can read up on them, but anything that has minerals in it. And one way you can tell is almost all sea salt that's really white has been bleached. So you want to find one that looks more dirty.
Okay, but what about the specific health benefits of iodine? Like, among other things, you should take it to keep you safe from Fukushima radiation, but they say there are other specific health benefits. Could you briefly touch on that?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about all of the health benefits so much, as I just know that the supplements I take have iodine in it. And I'm a really big believer in taking supplements in balanced amounts, because if you take them in too much of something, it can be as harmful as not enough. So I really like the idea of taking iodine just in a good, high-quality supplement and then getting it from your salt. And I can't tell you about the benefits, but I know it's important. So how about you tell me, and then I'll learn something.
Well, I just touched the one on it keeps you safe from Fukushima radiation. That's pretty much the one reason I take it. I'm not going to get into details of how bad it is. I mean, it is bad, worse than the mainstream media is telling us. Listen to the first hour of my interview with Alfred Weber, and you'll learn all about that one. But as far as I'm concerned, that would be the best iodine best reason to take iodine. As far as the best specific iodine to take, I take Survival Shield from Infowars.com, but there is a highly advanced form that they've just created which contains iodine crystals from the earth, and the fact that it's a crystal makes it better. And you know what? Since I mentioned that, I might as well discuss that. The whole subject of getting energy from crystals and the fact that taking crystallized iodine is better than not taking iodine that's not crystallized. So let's talk about this now, since I mentioned it. How crystals can help you heal and improve overall health in general.
Well, first of all, I would commend you for taking iodine in a natural crystallized form, because then that's going to be absorbable by your body, and that will be beneficial. And crystals are really cool. So crystals they absorb energy, and they help transfer energy. So a crystal can help strengthen. So in my chakra book, I have also pictures of crystals, different crystals that will be strengthening to a chakra and then also weakening. And so if you have an area in your body where you're weak, there are certain crystals that will strengthen the energy in that area. And if you have an area that's really like too much energy there, you can use other crystals to bring it down. But I just frankly like to have them around me. If you came to my house, you'd probably laugh, because I have bowls of crystals all over. I just really like them. In fact, this morning I took some out and I laid them on the soil, and they sat in the sun for about 3 hours to clean them, and then I brought them back in. And I just like the energy that they really help the energy of my house. When I've been gone, I come home and I always just go like, oh, I'm home, because I like having all the crystals around me. So they're pretty powerful in a simple little way.
Yeah, they are. And by the way, do you know of a lot of people can't really easily afford to buy crystals. Aside from your local metaphysical shop, are there any specific sources for the people that want to look into this where they can easily afford crystals?
Well, honestly, it's not just the crystals, the stones, just even rocks will have energy. So just look around. And I believe that crystals become more powerful if you love them and you value them. So I'm not a big believer in buying really, really expensive crystals. I just have what talks to me. And I have some stones. In fact, I have a rock that we found in our yard when we lived in West Virginia. And it was kind of an unusual rock, and I brought it in. And one day I was doing my daughter said her back was just killing her. And so I was just sitting on the floor. My back was against my couch, and I just had her head in my hands. And as I was sitting there was this rock that was sitting back behind me on a table, and I kept seeing that rock on her stomach, and I I kept thinking, that's crazy. Like, I wanted to go put that rock on her, just lay it on her stomach. And finally, just out of my mouth, the words came, is your back out of balance? And she said, no. And I didn't even know where that came from. It just came out. And then I just instinctively reached back and took that crystal. Well, actually, it was a rock. And I set it on her stomach. As soon as I did, I put my hand back under her head, and her back just went clunk, clunk, clunk. I mean, you could hear it adjust. And she opened her eyes and she said, what was that? And so we picked up this rock and we really looked at it, and I realized it's really, really light. And then I had another rock that was kind of by it that was downstairs, and when I picked it up, it was in two pieces, and so I brought it. And so as soon as this one rock, we'd had this experience, I said, hang on just a minute, and I ran down and grabbed the other two pieces, and it was almost like a brick rock, and it had broken in half, and I looked at the inside, and it was all crystals. It was just crystally. And so I said, you know what, I bet this is a crystal, because what it did. So, I don't know, I just pick up things that I'm drawn to, and I think they have power. I have some hot rocks. I do hot rock massage. I have these stones I picked up from the beach, and I got them from a beach in Carlsbad, California. And the first couple of times I used them, I was watching people thinking, okay, what is going on? Because they were totally responding to these rocks being on their back. And so one day I did it to me, I just put some hot rocks on my stomach, and I laid on my, I was laying on my back, but I put them on the front of me, and I couldn't believe what happened. It was like they just went in and totally rearranged my energy. And so they just look like ordinary rocks. So it's not like you have to have a special crystal to have powers. Just pay attention. Nature is a great, great healer, and you can communicate with nature really quite easily if you just try. So I just look for things that speak to me, if you will, and then I'm like, oh, I got to have that. I got to have that, because the rocks and the stones and the crystals, they'll call out to you. They'll literally draw you to them. And I have a lot of stuff I've just picked up for practically nothing, and I know it's powerful, and I really do believe that just loving it and valuing it makes it a lot more valuable. Is that helpful?
Yeah, and I have
Probably
a lot of plants.
Not your normal answer, but okay, sorry.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't really have a lot of crystals in my house, but I do have a lot of plants you show your plants a lot of love, and they'll show you a lot of love, purify the air and all the rest of it, because they have their own consciousness like we do. Two things I want to talk about. See, maybe we can kill two birds with one stone here. The benefits of colloidal silver, and also the benefits of having your colon cleansed. Do one after the other. Colloidal silver and colon cleansing, and maybe some recommendations on which products to use.
Well, colloidal silver is a really good natural antibiotic. And I used a product called Silver Shield. It's my favorite. I get it from Nature's Sunshine, and I used that when I had viral meningitis. That was another thing that really helped me. It's just really powerful. It kills viruses. It kills all the bugs in your body. It's great to use in a spray bottle. You can dilute it with water and spray your doorknobs and your counters, and it doesn't have a taste. It doesn't have a flavor. It's totally non-toxic, but it kills the germs, kills the bacteria and the viruses. It's a really, really good thing to have, especially this time of year when you start being concerned about picking up bugs. And you can put just a little in your water and drink it. Really, really good. I love colloidal silver. And as far as colonics go, they're also really, really good. It's a great idea to have one on a regular basis, like at least quarterly. So how that works is that you go to a colon therapist, is usually what they're called, and they put you in a little room, and sometimes you'll put a little gown on, or anyway, usually take the bottom from the waist off, down, take whatever you have off on your clothes off, and you're covered, and they stick this little tube up your rectum, and it doesn't sound really awesome, but they flood you with water, and then it flushes out stuff that shouldn't be there. Now, maybe not everybody needs this, but if you have any sort of a colon issue or digestive issue, it's an excellent, excellent, excellent idea. And I know this because, I told you I used to take a lot of antibiotics, and I used to drink a lot of Diet Coke, and I ate a lot of fake food. So none of that promotes healthy colons. And I had a lot of problems. And when I was so sick and I couldn't figure out why, I met this girl and she'd had lupus. And she was doing amazing. And she said that after she got lupus, she really started studying. And she said, I decided I wasn't taking the medicine. And she went on raw juices. She did raw organic vegetable juice. And then she started doing colonics. And she said, it saved my life. And she told me how good she felt. And as she was telling me, I don't even know what they are, but when she's telling me, I just knew there was something in me that said, you need to go do that. And so I found out where she went, and I made an appointment. I went twice a week for a month, and this lady could not get anything to move. She said, you are so compacted. This is crazy. And so she had me start doing juices, and she gave me some herbs, told me to take some herbs, and finally things started moving. But what I learned after that, I went to someone who was an iridologist, and she looked in my eye, and she said, your colon looks like a toxic waste dump. And I told her I'd been doing colonics for a year, and she said, you're kidding. And she said, well, that's probably saved your life and definitely added years to it. And so then I started doing a thing of doing some cleansing herbs along with the colonic, and I did colonics for 4 or 5 years on a monthly basis, and it completely healed my digestive system. It turned it around because everything that I'd been putting in that was not food, I hadn't been putting any fiber or any of the nutrients, things that your colon needs to be healthy, and I had just become very, very, very unhealthy in that area. And so the colonics really, and she also put stuff in the water I'm not sure what she did. It's been a long time, but she flooded my colon with things that were nutrients and helped things release. And I just know that I don't look older now really than I did 20, 25 years ago when I was doing that. And I guarantee you if I hadn't been doing it, I probably would be dead by now because I had so much stuff going on in my body. So I'm a big believer in them.
Yeah, one other thing I want to touch on in regards to health benefits that many people don't know about. Greg Prescott of In5D recently uploaded an article titled something like The Benefits of Cinnamon and Honey, and there were quite a few benefits there. Don't have time to go through all of them one by one. I could find the article, but I'm not going to for the sake of time, so I'm going to let you talk about this. Can you touch on the benefits of cinnamon and honey?
Well, I've actually seen some of those articles too. So the big thing with honey is that honey, there's a difference between raw honey and then and the type that you buy in the store that's really brown and very liquidy. That usually always has been. It's been heated to a really high temperature, and it doesn't resemble honey as far as raw honey. The properties are completely different. So if you're going to be doing honey for health benefits, you want to find a raw, preferably locally grown, organic honey, because then what's going to happen is it's going to have a lot of raw enzymes in it. It's going to have a lot of nutrients, and it's also going to have the pollinators that are going to help you, if it's been grown locally, that are going to help your body to be able to become healthy. It's going to work with you because it's that same stuff you're breathing, that the bees are breathing, and I don't know how that all works exactly, but it's just going to be better for you and your immunity if you are eating local grown honey. So that's the reason why honey is beneficial. It's just the raw honey has enzymes and nutrients. But the cinnamon powder, by the way, isn't anywhere near as effective as a cinnamon essential oil, a high quality, really truly pure essential oil, because that has a lot of properties in it that are good for you. It's great for your blood sugar. It's great for your pancreas. So if you have an insulin issue, if you're insulin resistant or diabetic, that's going to be really good for that. Cinnamon also is a really, really powerful antiviral. The properties are really high antiviral. And so it's going to help you to ward off diseases. So taking cinnamon and honey together would totally be beneficial. But make sure that you're not just using a cheap drugstore variety cinnamon, some really cheap cinnamon, and you're not using a highly processed honey, because you're not going to get the same benefits. It's not going to work the same way.
Okay. Getting back to the subject of food here, I did just upload an article on In5D, Top 10 Foods You Need to Avoid, and this is by Joel Wallach, Dr. Joel Wallach and Dr. Peter Glidden. I'm just going to quickly name them, and if anything stands out, I'll let you give your take on it here of the top 10 bad foods. Number 1, wheat. Number 2, barley. Number 3, rye. And number 4, oats and oatmeal, even if it says that it's gluten-free. And number 5 is fried food, and never more than medium rare is how you should cook your meat, it says. It says you should not eat oil, including olive oil, canola oil, and coconut oil, and if it has oil in the name, don't use it. This includes anything made from oil like salad dressing, and Dr. Wallach recommends using salt and lemon juice, no margarine or combo spreads, no mayonnaise, nothing made from oils, and no burned fats, and avoid nitrates added to meat, no carbonated drinks, and the skin of a baked potato. I've mentioned all of those. Is there anything that stands out that you want to talk about?
Okay, well, I would agree with the grains, especially for the GMO, for a lot of people. So a lot of people are having problems with grains now, and it's because of the GMOs in them. They've just so altered, they're not really what we used to have 40, 50 years ago as grains. Oatmeal, I still eat oatmeal occasionally. I'm not sure that I 100% agree on that, but it would be the same thing. I would want a really high-quality organic oatmeal. The oils, I disagree with him on that. I think that you need to think high-quality, really, really high-quality oils. Olive oil in particular, and some of the other liquid oils, they're so adulterated that you're not even getting the real deal. I just stayed with a friend in California, and she has olive trees, and she does olive oil. And I know the process that's behind that, and it's like a big, big deal. It's very, very time intensive, and she has them ground. She takes them some man that grinds them with a stone, and she said that she took them somewhere one year, and there were little slivers of steel in the alcohol. And she said, nobody else could tell, but I could tell. I know the difference. So I was thinking, how many olive oil that you buy do you think that they do with a stone ground? None. They're all going to do the stove. And not only that, they combine just from whatever. So if you're going to use it, use really, really high quality. And coconut oil is amazing. In fact, several countries, besides not the United States, but in other countries, they would use coconut oil as medicine because it's very healing. It's healing for blood sugar issues. It's healing for digestive issues. And I'm a really big fan of coconut oil, but once again, really high quality. So I would disagree with him on those. And just about everything else, I'd say, okay, yes, I agree with.
Okay, thanks for giving your take on that. Subject of Reiki, we didn't touch on it. I don't know how much experience you have in Reiki. I do want to actually learn how to do it now that the winter season's coming around. Can't get out into nature as much. Well, you probably should because it's winter, not as much sun. But if I don't have the opportunity to get out into nature because it's snowing or whatever, I might as well spend my free time learning how to do Reiki. And there are some sites that Greg Prescott told me about that's like do-it-yourself Reiki, how to practice it. Do you know anything about it? Is there anything you want to say about Reiki?
Yes. I learned that in massage school, so I've been doing it for years. Well, first of all, it only takes a few minutes to go outside in the winter and get a little fresh air, so still do that, okay? You don't have to go out there for hours, but get your 10 minutes. And then when you're doing Reiki, so what you're doing is you're just moving energy. And remember, intention's really there and learn your thing, but it's not so much in your head. It's more just allowing the energy to flow. And so I always think when I put my hands on people, I don't say I do Reiki or I do acupuncture, or I do reflexology. I know some Jin Shinjitsu, I know Shiatsu. I don't ever say that I do any of those things. I tell everybody I do energy work. And the reason why is because I've taken a lot of classes from a lot of different people, and everybody has their own take on how to do things. And there's a lot of similarities, and there's some differences. But what I found is it didn't really matter how I can try one way or another way or the other way, and I still get the end result. And so I started paying attention to what was really happening, and I realized that I always pray first, and I just ask that I will be a conduit and that whatever needs to happen in the person will happen, and it won't be from me, it'll come through me. And so that's been my trick, and amazing things happen when I do that. And so when I took the Jinshin Jitsu training, that's a Japanese art, and the English translation of the word is loosely the art of the creator working through the hands of the compassionate person. And I realized, oh, that's me. So that's the way I see energy work. And so I throw Reiki into what I do all the time, but I'm just allowing the creator to work through me. And it's really easy when you do that. You can't do it too wrong. You just put your hands on people with the intention of helping them and allow it to happen.
Allow it to happen. So hopefully I'll just keep thinking like that and I can learn it lickety-split. But since you mentioned that, the whole subject of guardian angels and spirit guides, asking them for help, there is a little bit of a debate in regards to how often you should or should not ask your guardian angels and spirit guides for help. Some would assert it's a good mentality and attitude towards life to acknowledge that you do have guardian angels and spirit guides, but you shouldn't make a habit out of asking them for help. You should make a mentality of just suck it up and do it yourself without asking for your angels and guides to help you. But others would say, no, you're not going to have any punishment if you ask them for help too much. Just make sure you ask them for strictly positive and love-based purposes. What do you have to say about that debate?
Well, let's put it this way. If my kids need something and they ask me, especially little kids, I don't feel like there's a limit on what they can ask me. My intention is to help them, and so I'm more than willing to help them however I can. Well, I really believe that my angels and my guides have the same attitude, that they're more than happy to help me. And I ask all the time, and I don't feel like I'm overstepping my bounds. I feel like they're grateful that I ask them, and they help me. I know they help me. I feel it. I mean, stuff happens all the time, and I'm like, oh, thank you. I can just tell that I'm being helped. And I believe that they're sitting there waiting for us and that they like it when we ask them, and they like it when we appreciate them, and that we acknowledge that they are helping us.
Right. And they are there, remote viewers, among other sources, a remote viewing documentary on the UFO TV Studios YouTube channel. Remote viewers said, yeah, there are angels hovering around waiting to help us. Don't get involved unless we either ask them or if the situation at hand is dire, in which case they want to get involved to help us. It's not really breaking the law of unconditional love if they do that because the situation is dire. But other things to talk about here. Let's move on to something else. Meditation. There is a little bit of a debate in this as well in regards to the extent to which meditation can become harmful. Some say if you make a ritual out of meditation, then it becomes harmful. If you obsess about doing it the same way, the same time, the same place, then you're going to harm yourself when you meditate, even though meditation is designed to be strictly beneficial. Others would assert that when you meditate, well, first of all, you always want to ask your guardian angels and spirit guides to help you attain the highest good from the meditation. But some would assert you should always, since you're infinite consciousness, just radiate love from your heart. That you can't go wrong if you radiate love from your heart when you're meditating, and the key is to radiate. Don't bring energy into you, radiate energy out of you, because you're infinite. You might as well make the most of it by radiating energy out of you. And not only that, if you radiate energy, ask that energy come into you, even if you've asked your angels and guides to help you, the fact that you're letting energy come into you enables negative entities and negative energies to affect you. So they say always radiate with your heart, radiate the energy outwards. So in regards to meditation, the best ways to do it and the extent to which meditation can become a harmful ritual, do you have anything to say about that?
Well, first of all, one of the main reasons why we meditate is we want to create balance. We want to create this homeostate, right? So if you're so obsessed about meditating that it takes you out of balance, that's when you're going to have a little bit of a problem with it. So it's got to be kind of I have a friend and she meditates every day for 20 minutes, and she's really, really good about it. But she's been with me, and we've been in the middle of something where we just didn't have time, and so she meditates for maybe 5 minutes. And she doesn't freak out about it. She's like, all right, well, that's just how it was today. So I think that's a very healthy way of doing it. For me, when I meditate, I pray. And so praying is where I'm talking to my creator or my higher power. And then when I meditate, it's like the reflective listening state. And so one of the ways that I'm telling if I'm bringing something good or bad is if it's bad, it's going to make me feel bad, or it's going to be something that would give me information that would perhaps make me think about bad things or doing bad, non-productive things. So that's one way I can filter out what I'm listening to. But anything that I'm going to receive from my higher power or creator is going to be good, and it's going to be uplifting, motivating, inspirational. It's going to help me become a better, happier person. So that's what I'm listening to. If I'm listening to something that's making me feel bad, I'm not listening to who I want to be listening to. So I make sure I cut that one off. And sometimes when I meditate, I'll just think on something, and then I'm just listening for some sort of inspiration about how that's going to happen or what I need to do next. Because I meditate, I pray and meditate about which direction to go, and I will really want to know my next step. So that's one way that I meditate. And then there are other times that I meditate and I just simply do think loving thoughts. And I project, I think I love myself, and then I love other people. And a really powerful way to meditate is to just bring love into your own heart. And then when you can really feel that you love yourself and you are loved and you are valued and validated, then take that same energy and project that out onto someone else. So you picture that person in your mind and just literally send them that energy. And they'll feel it. It's really cool. It's kind of like when you walk in a room and you can tell that somebody's looking at you, and you turn around and they are. It's the same sort of thing. They can feel that. So that's, to me, what meditation is about. It's not something that is weird or that I could do it wrong or I might do it bad. It's something that I use to help me to be connected to inspiration. And then I also use it to be able to project something good in me out to someone else.
Right, and there's some other things that people like to do to help themselves and others. And getting back to ritual, that's what I'm talking about here. Andrew Bartzis has talked about in his videos, you want to occasionally do rituals like a fire ceremony of sorts, make a fire and talk to the fire, and also brewing your own alcohol. He has steps how to do that, and also burn incense around you. And there's many other rituals besides fire ceremonies, alcohol making, and incense burning. But talk about maybe those three if you want to for a little bit, and maybe some other rituals that people might want to engage in that will help them spiritually and not harm them.
Well, so my thing with rituals is that sometimes you get so caught up in the ritual that you really lose. It's like you're doing the letter of something, not the spirit of. And so for me, meditating isn't about doing a ritual to bring in the energy. I don't need to do that. I can just go to a space and draw it in my heart. And when I do the ritual, then it's distracting, and I'm not really bringing that into me. It's not something I have to go out there and make happen and look for happening. It's something that just comes to me. That's how it is for me, and that's how I teach it. So I'm not, rituals, they can be fun, but it's not something that I need to do to connect or to get the benefits of meditating.
Okay, and another thing Andrew Bartz has talked about is also when you go to sleep, put some seeds. The organic seeds are probably the best of some vegetable, maybe even flower seeds might work, on your heart. Put them on your heart when you go to bed at night, and it'll help you in dream time in some way. I mean, I don't know he didn't say anything about what if they fall off your heart while you're sleeping and you're rolling over. He didn't talk about that, or if that would make a difference. But do you have anything to say about that would help you in sleep and dream time to put seeds on your heart?
Well, I like the energy of flowers, so I certainly don't think that could hurt. They would definitely fall off my heart. I use essential oils because they don't fall off, and then I'm still bringing that same energy in. You got to remember, I'm the super simple girl here. If it's too hard, too complicated, costs too much money, takes too much time, I'm not going to do it. I'm really wanting to get to really super simple things. So essential oils are easy. You just put some on your feet, put some behind your ears, and turn your diffuser on, and you are so covered. And you go to sleep, and you're bringing in all sorts of good things. You're eliminating toxins in the air. You're bringing in the energy of the flowers and the plants, and I think they're really protective. And I wake up feeling great. And it took me not even 2 minutes to do. It takes me like a half a minute to do, and I'm done. So it's got to be easy for me.
Got to be easy. Well, I hate to tell you this, but I'm going to make things a little complicated here by talking about the advancement in the DNA and the chakra system. It's been said by a lot of people recently that as part of humanity's consciousness shift, there are 12 chakras and not just 7, and they're being activated progressively, and there have been a lot of ascension symptoms as a result of this. And also the DNA, the codons in our DNA, they're actually activating at a higher rate. I recently started taking a supplement from InfoWars store called DNA Force to make sure my amino acids stay strong to go along with this shift and all. But the subject of more chakras being activated, there being 12 instead of 7, and our codons in our DNA being activated now. Do you have anything to say about that in this time of great consciousness shift?
I've heard that too. And I totally do agree that we are evolving and that we are, especially if we're taking steps to become more enlightened and more conscious, that things are changing in our bodies and our energy systems. As far as the 4 chakras, more chakras around, you're getting more into arc field stuff and arc layers and the ethereal layers. So it doesn't have to be complicated for me. And honestly, what I'm finding in all my work with people, and I've been doing this for 20 years, is that what really brings people into alignment, what really helps things shift in them is for them to get on track with what they came to this earth to do. Because I really believe we all come down here with a purpose. We have something in us that drives us and moves us. And if we're not connected to that, we're like walking dead. We're sleepwalking. We're going through motions and we're feeling dissatisfied and we're feeling like a lack of fulfillment. So why do you do a radio show? Is this something that you just feel like is your thing and it really moves you and drives you to do that?
It's not about me. It's about expanding the consciousness of humanity and non-humanity, for that matter, if there's any ETs listening, if you know what I mean.
Right. Right. But wouldn't you say that feels like something in you that you're compelled to do? Yes,
I am compelled to do this, I feel.
Right. So I would call that like your purpose. That's your thing that you do that makes you really a way to contribute to this world. Well, we all come down here with something. And when we're not in touch with that and we're not doing it, there's a high level of unrest and dissatisfaction that's going on in our subconscious and our inner state. And so what I do is I really help people figure out what they came to do and get on track with doing it. And then I find that when they do that, almost everything else just aligns really easily. They might have a thing they need to work on, but it just lines up. It's kind of like you get the basics in place and the rest takes care of itself. If you're not getting the basics in place, you can work on all those other things, but they never really stay where they're supposed to be because you just can't get in alignment. So I'm all about helping people just get into a place where they're very much attuned to being who they genuinely really are and doing their thing that they came to do. And then it's just cool to watch how it changes.
Right. It does. One thing about the chakras I want to briefly touch on, it has been debated whether or not we need chakras. Some people, among others, George Kavassilis and also his wife Cynthia has talked about this, how they just ignore all the chakras. They just go with the heart, and they use the term dissolve the chakras to refer to combining all the chakras into one, and the one is the heart soul essence. Others would assert if you do that, you're missing out on all the fun. Yeah, you may never go wrong if you just go with the heart and make that the only chakra and combine all the other chakras into one, but hey, you're missing all the fun, you're missing all the variety. Use the other chakras, for crying out loud. So what do you have to say about that debate there?
Well, the heart's definitely the center. It's the driver of the soul. It connects everything. So that is, it's like it radiates out. So they're absolutely right about that. But the bottom line is chakras are connected to different things in the body. So you can't really ignore them or erase them. They just are there. It's like energy. You just can't get rid of energy. It just exists. It is. And so, you can just focus on the heart and really get your heart in order, and a lot of other things are going to just automatically line up. That's one way to look at it. But then understanding just the qualities of each chakra and understanding what imbalance looks like and understanding how to bring it back into balance, it's useful. For example, root chakra issues have to do with not being grounded, not feeling stable and supported and secure in this world, not really knowing your place. And one of the symptoms of disease is cancer. And I've had a couple of friends that have gotten cancer, and they've read my book, and they've come back and said, that's so funny because I'm really out of balance in that part of my body. And so they can just understand things that they can do to help them get more grounded and to get more centered, because that's a foundational piece. So you can't really ignore the chakras. You can't pretend like they're not there. They are, and they are associated with things. And when they're out of balance for too long, they do create conditions of dis-ease or just not at ease in the body. And then after a while, you can start having literal symptoms, which we would call disease, that start happening.
Right. Okay, we're coming to the end of the show, by the way. There's about 8 minutes left, and probably a little less after I say what I'm about to say, but I think I'm going to finish off on a really, really radical note. Maybe we'll have time for another subject. But anyway, one thing that's one of those things that many people can't handle the truth about is the moon. What is the moon? It's the ball and chain around Earth's feminine energy, as many would assert. It's also a giant artificial body. A lot of people won't believe that because people refuse to believe in aliens, and two, it's just too frightening. But let's say for a moment that that is true, and let's imagine the moon is the ball and chain around Earth's feminine energy, which it is. George Cavazos said in his presentations, this has a lot to do with the reason women over a 28-day period in correspondence with the moon cycle will go through all sorts of pains. He said, well, since I'm a man, I don't really know what they go through as well as they would, but hey, I've heard it from women that there's a lot of problems, and hey, the moon is the cause for it. But don't assume this doesn't affect the men, because it doesn't really matter what gender you are. You got to have a balance between the male and the female energy. So the fact that there is a big body out there that's artificial in space above the Earth that's toying around and putting a ball and chain around the Earth's feminine energy, hey, that's going to affect you as well. So this whole subject of, let's say, having people need to cope with the fact that the moon up there is the ball and chain around Earth's feminine energy, and we need to combine the masculine and feminine energy to overpower that. Do you have anything to say about this radical subject here?
Well, I don't know. I don't really see the moon like that. I know there are moon cycles. I know that they affect us. I always think about it in terms of gardening, because I know that when you plant by moon cycles, your plants grow faster. Your garden does better. I don't know. I just really think of masculine and feminine energy as working together, and I never think of it as working with the moon. Feminine energy is very attracting, and masculine energy is like go out and get it, make it happen. And I don't know. I've never totally thought about that with the moon. That's something I don't know. I know I have friends that will do moon dances and things, but I've never gotten into it, so I don't know.
Okay.
I'm like totally clueless on this subject.
Oh, okay, I can understand. A lot of people there's a lot of things that need to be researched into this subject about what the moon is and what it does. That's just the tip of the iceberg, the fact that it's a ball and chain around Earth's feminine energy controlled by malevolent forces. But we do have time for one more subject here. I guess I can give you about 5.5 minutes on this. One of the most disturbing things about humanity is because many humans out there, they're so paradigmatic, they're so fearful, and they're so stupid that they will refuse to believe truths that they can't handle, even if the evidence shows they have no choice but to believe it, among other things. That's why it's so easy for governments to get away with their conspiracies and secrets being exposed, because people just can't handle the truth. Now, I've spoken to some other guests about this, and they've told me that the human race, we were genetically engineered by extraterrestrials like Zecharia Sitchin and David Icke talked about. And since they wanted to genetically engineer us to be a slave species, they actually genetically engineered humans to be paradigmatic, fearful, and stupid so they can keep us in line better. Pretty disturbing realization there. But with that being said, I mean, you can't ignore this in regards to helping overall health and wellness, because as long as there's people out there who will act like this and want to be lost in a trance, then the overall human race, the collective consciousness, that's going to keep the rest of us in this matrix, so to speak. So do you have anything to say about this subject and how maybe you can cope with the fact that there's many people out there who, because the ETs genetically engineered us like this, they are going to be stuck in a matrix like this?
Well, I don't choose to believe that we've been genetically engineered into anything. I do believe we've been brainwashed into a lot of things. And I believe we have choice. That's the ultimate thing right there, is we have choice to choose how we're going to think and how we're going to feel and how we're going to react. And so I'm all about teaching people to take control and take charge of their lives. And I don't live in fear. I live in a world where I create my reality based on what I think and what I feel. Every single thought that I think, every single word I say is creating something. And so if I live in a fearful, whiny, negative, give all my power away state, I'm going to have more of that. If I live in a state, in a world where I create good things and, I believe in good, I look for good, I do good, and I say everything works out for me, it works that way. My life's amazing. I live among people where I hear, I just go around and I hear how hard life is, and I hear how awful it is. I don't live in that world at all. I set an amount of money I want to make. I look at that, I think about it, I talk about it, I say I make it, and I make it. And I just, okay, well, that's cool. Then I find something else. I'm just always creating on my beliefs. I don't believe by any means that I was controlled and I am controlled. I've been brainwashed, and I used to buy into it. I don't anymore. So I believe that we can create our realities, that we can have whatever we want. We are not owned by anybody. We're not controlled by anybody, and our thoughts aren't either. So I actually have a bouncer in my mind. Anything that comes in that's not serving me gets kicked out. It can come into my mind, but it is not allowed to stay there.
Right. But let's just finish on this note. I'll give you 2.5 minutes to talk about this subject. With that being said, what you just said, that brings up the whole issue of the New Age movement, because the New Age movement would have that attitude of, well, I'm not being controlled by anybody. I just have to think positive thoughts, and then good will come to me. I can just meditate in a lotus flower position out in the woods, and then it's going to bring good to the world. Well, no, that's not how things work in this matrix. In this matrix, fear is unavoidable to some degree. So you can't act like a New Age movement person, or there's going to be problems, because among other things, the New Age movement suppresses the sacred masculine energy, as Mark Passio has talked about this. So with that being said, I can give you 2 minutes and 15 seconds on this subject. What do you have to say to all those New Agers out there who are lost in a trance?
Well, I agree. It's not just that you sit here and say that. I go to work too. I say I want something, and then I don't just sit and wait for it to happen. I go out and work and make it happen. But it's still a choice. And yes, I am afraid sometimes. But fear pops into my mind, and then the bouncer says no and kicks it back out. So fear is false evidence appearing real. I don't go into it. I don't worry. Worry chokes the life out of you. I just refuse to go there. So it's not about just being New Agey and saying all that. I get that. I know what you're saying, but I choose to have a positive outlook. I choose to see myself as a creator. I put out there what I want. I decide. I look at it. I think about it. I talk about it, and I go after it. And it happens. And I've changed my life drastically. It's nothing like it used to be, because I started doing that. I used to be afraid, and I was depressed, and I was sick, and life sucked, and it doesn't anymore. I create my reality, and I have to take action steps after I decide what I want. But there's a lot to be said about deciding what you want. You focus on it. You have a vision. You believe that it's possible. I teach classes. I coach people on this. I've seen hundreds of people's lives change, and we're totally in control of our life. We don't live in fear, and we're not New Agey. We're actually doing amazing things in the world. So I just don't believe that we were or whatever you said, that we've been engineered and this is what it is. I don't believe that at all. I believe that we all have agency. We can create what we want. And I've been the victim. I've been in fear. I've had a really, really hard life. It's not like that anymore, because I chose to see it different. Nothing changed except me. When I changed, my world changed. And I live a great life now. So I just believe we can have whatever we want, and we don't have to buy into the reality out there, because it doesn't have to be real. It's not real in my world.
It's not real in my world.
For a lot of people, but it's not real for me.
It's not real for me either, and it goes without saying that the worst prison that anyone could be stuck in is the fear of what other people think. If you fear what other people think, then you're going to be stuck in the ultimate prison. So with that being said, I guess I'll bring this show to an end by telling you the same thing I tell all my guests. You are a fascinating individual, and while I'm sure I could do another show with you again, I want to make it clear that one of my goals with this show is to get as many different people on as possible before giving any one specific guest double dips, as I fear that is the fairest way to do the show, and also probably the best way to get out information from many different points of view. So don't feel bad if I don't call you to come on my show again. That's only because I need to give a lot of other fascinating individuals a chance at some glory on my show, but hey, this was a fascinating show, and I'll make sure it gets uploaded to YouTube.
All right. Well, thank you. I love you, and I so appreciate you having me on the show. It's been great.
It was great, too. All right, take care, Connie.
All right. You have a great night.
You too.
Bye.
Namaste. Well, folks, this show is officially over. To be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure who my guest for next week is. I just signed him on a couple of days ago. I'll have to check that, but I will have a show next Wednesday. Namaste.